Welcome to The Explainer. What we do here is pretty simple. We take all sorts of source documents, reports, data, research papers, and we break them down into visual stories that are easy to follow and understand.
So, for today's explainer, we're going to dig into the profile of a modern financial advisor. And we're going to tackle this with what I'm calling an hourglass approach. We'll start really broad, talking about why we even invest. Then we'll zoom way in on a specific financial plan. And finally, we'll zoom back out to see how it all connects to a much bigger picture. All right, let's jump right in. The source material we're looking at today kicks things off with a really fundamental question. It's the why behind everything else. Why do we invest our money to begin with? So, right at the top, the documents give us this quote from CEO Gaurav Deep Gautam. The translation is simple but powerful. Investment is useful for future work and for a better time. It's a great way to frame it, right? It's not just about numbers on a screen, it's about building something, securing a better future for yourself. And of course, the source document gives us a more textbook definition too. It's the act of putting your money into some kind of asset, hoping it'll generate income. They list the usual suspects: mutual funds, stocks, and interestingly, even business partnerships. Okay, so we've got the why down. Now let's connect that to the who. Who is the person guiding this process? The source gives us a really detailed look at the advisor at the heart of this whole case study.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This is not your standard financial advisor resume. You see a master's in mathematics, which, okay, makes sense. You want your advisor to be good with numbers, but then you see it's paired with political science, international relations, and marketing. That's a fascinating mix. It tells you this is someone who doesn't just see the spreadsheet. They see the bigger picture, the market trends, the human behavior, which all leads up to their role as an organization leader and CEO.
All right, so we're at the narrowest part of our hourglass now. To make all this theory and background concrete, the documents zoom in on one specific financial product. This is where we get to see how all that expertise is actually applied.
The example they give is a plan called LIC's New Jeevan Shree Plan 911. Now, you see these terms here: non-linked and non-participating. What does that actually mean? Well, in simple terms, it's all about stability. Your returns are guaranteed. They're not connected to or linked to the wild swings of the stock market.
And here's the core promise of this particular plan, boiled down to a single number: 85 rupees. The source material is very clear on this. For every 1,000 rupees of your base investment, you're guaranteed an extra 85 rupees added on every single year. That's what gives it that clear, predictable growth. No guesswork involved.
So if we look at the nuts and bolts of it, you can see it's built to be pretty straightforward. It's a single, one-time payment, kind of a set-it-and-forget-it deal, but you do have flexibility. You can choose how long the policy runs, anywhere from 5 to 20 years. And this is a big one. There's a loan facility. So if life happens and you need access to that cash, it's not completely locked away. And there's more to it. The documents list a bunch of other features that add some nice layers of flexibility. You've got different options for the death benefit, you can add optional riders for extra coverage, and there are even potential rebates if you go for higher sum. And of course, the big one for many people, potential tax benefits. That's always something to look out for in financial planning. Okay, so let's start to widen that hourglass again. We've looked at the nitty-gritty of one specific plan, but what the source material shows us is that the story doesn't end there. This advisor's work goes way beyond just a single policy.
And this is a fantastic way to see it. You have one person, but they're wearing two very different hats. As an LIC financial advisor, it's all about you, the individual, your personal financial plan, your insurance needs. But then, as the CEO of this other company, ASMC, the focus completely shifts to helping businesses grow through strategy and development.
So yeah, he's also the CEO of this organization, ASMC. And check out the full name: Analysis Solution Mathematics Coaching Center. That's not a coincidence, right? It goes right back to those credentials we saw. It's about using that analytical, mathematical mindset to solve problems, but this time for businesses. And here's what that looks like in practice. The services offered by ASMCC are totally different. We're talking about strategic investment advice for companies, not just individuals. We're talking about full-on marketing strategies and market research to help a business understand where it stands and how to get ahead. It's a complete pivot from personal finance to the corporate world. Okay, so we're at the end of our explainer, bringing everything back together into that final holistic view. We started with the big why of investing. We met the who, we drilled down into the what with a specific plan, and then we saw the what else. So how does it all connect? And look at this. The source documents list all these contact points. What's so revealing here is that you see the official LIC agency code for the insurance side, right next to the email addresses for the business consulting side. It's all connected to the same person, Gaurav Deep Gautam. It really drives home this idea of one advisor providing a whole suite of services for your personal life and your business. And that really brings us to the final takeaway from this case study. What we're seeing here is a profile of a very holistic kind of guidance. And it leaves you, the viewer, with a pretty important question to think about. As you plan for that better time that was mentioned right at the start, what kind of advice do you actually need? Do you need a specialist who's an expert in one thing? Or do you need someone who can see the whole board, connecting your personal financial goals with your bigger business or career ambitions? What's the right fit to build your future?